Hey guys, Mark here. I hope you are well. Today's tutorial is going to cover another design for a paracord blackjack. Naturally, make, carry and use this item according to the law and with respect to others. Here are a couple of examples of today's project. It is a fairly simple design with a steel cable cord, two bellies of plating, a Turk's head knot to cover the head of the blackjack, and a smaller Turk's head here at the bottom of the handle. So let's make one. When it comes to supplies, most of our project is going to be made out of Paracord 550. You can use a single color or you can use two. All of the paracord in this project is going to be gutted, so the inner strands are removed. I'm going to address specific lengths of cords when I'm executing a technique. So when I'm tying a knot or plaiting, I'm going to tell you how much cord you're going to need. The cord for our project is going to be wire rope, 10 inches long and 1/4 of an inch in diameter. To add some weight to the head of the blackjack, we're going to be using either a steel rod or a threaded rod, 5/8 of an inch in diameter and 3 inches long. This one here is designated as M16. Electrical tape is going to be used at various points in the project for holding tasks, for stiffening up the blackjack, and for adding some thickness. For binding our project together, you can use some thread, the inner strands of paracord, or artificial sinew. Those are a few options. To tie our decorative knots, we're going to be using a lacing needle. And the final two supplies, scissors and a lighter. We begin by setting up the cord for our blackjack. We're going to unravel part of our wire rope, then insert our steel rod to the center, then tape everything up. Like this. Place your steel rod next to the cord of your wire rope and make sure that it faces out a bit more than these ends. So past these ends. Something like this. Then tape these two up, so the cord and the steel rod. Arrange these parts of the wire rope around the steel rod. You don't need to do it super neatly, just do it the best you can. Again, do note that these ends are a bit back from the top of the steel rod. Tape everything up from the top here to the very bottom. At the head of the blackjack, you can tape up any low points just to even everything out. So this is our cord. We now plate over the cord. Secure your cord in place, perhaps by placing it into a vise or taping it down. Prepare 4 cords of gutted paracord. Each cord is 4 feet long. Pass your strands on top of the blackjack like this, so that you get 4 strands on the right, 4 strands on the left. Take the top left strand, pass behind, in between the 4 strands on the right, back to the bottom on the left. Top right strand passes behind, in between the 4 strands on the left, back to the bottom on the right. Top left strand passes behind, in between the 4 strands on the right, back to the bottom on the left. Top right strand, behind, in between the 4 strands on the left, back to the bottom on the right. Top left, top right. Top left, top right. Once in a while, tighten up by pulling on all of your strands. Some gaps are going to appear since this part here is thicker than the handle at the bottom. This is not a problem since we're going to cover the plating using some tape and plating for a second time. So the looks here don't really matter, we're trying to thicken up our blackjack. So again, top left, top right, top left, top right, that's all we're doing. So left, right, left, right. Again, tighten up by pulling on all of your strands. Then continue plating until you cover the entire cord. We plait past the end of our cord, then tape everything down to hold our strands in place. We are now going to further secure this part here by binding over it. Use a piece of thread or an inner strand of paracord. In my case here, I'm going to be tying a number of constrictor knots. I place my thread like this. I come around, over the standing end, around, coming to the left of the standing end. I pass over it, then, using my working end, I pass under the X. Tighten up by pulling on both of your ends. Lock it down as firmly as you can. Then continue. Pass around, coming over the standing end, creating an X. Come around, under the X, tighten down. And again. Do this a number of times to lock down this part here, preventing your plating from coming undone. So an X, pass under it, lock it down. So after doing a couple of constrictor knots, trim your two ends, then melt them. Continue by trimming the ends, melt them, Roll your blackjack a little bit just to even it out. Then cover your entire blackjack using a layer of tape. This is going to even it out a bit further, plus thicken it up a bit. Like this. We now plait over our cord for a second and final time. I have prepared 6 pieces of gutted paracord. Each piece is 6 feet long. As you can see, I'm using 2 different colors. I'm going to set up my cords so that I have all of the ends of one color on one side and all of the ends of the other color on the other side. So usually, I just interlock my 2 sets of strands. Like this. To begin plaiting, start on the top left, take the top set of cords, pass behind, in between the 2 sets of cords on the right, back to the bottom on the left. Take the top 3 cords on the right, pass behind, in between the 2 sets of cords on the left, back to the bottom on the right. Again, top left set, behind, in between the 2 sets on the right, back to the bottom on the left. Top right set, behind, in between the 2 sets on the left, back to the bottom on the right. So that's all we're doing. Once in a while, tighten up. And continue the same way. Top left, top right, top left, top right, and again tighten up. Some gaps may appear here on the head of the blackjack, but this is going to be covered with a Turk's head knot later on. On the handle of the blackjack, the plating is going to get tighter and basically just how you need it to be. After plating to the very end of our handle, we're going to secure our plating first with a bit of tape, then bind everything together using a series of constrictor knots. Cover over this part just to smooth everything out. Trim the ends. Melt them. Then roll our plating again to even it out. We are now going to cover up the bottom of our handle. So this is the end result. Take a rubber band, attach it onto your handle. Take a gutted piece of paracord 5 feet long. Place one end under the rubber band. Attach a lacing needle onto the other end. To make things easier to see, I'm using a color of cords different from the one in the blackjack. Wrap around like this. Pass under the standing end. Keep wrapping around, passing over the standing end. Continue wrapping until you reach the standing end again. Double it up, traveling under over. From right to left, we're going to follow this cord and do the opposite. So, over, under 2, over 1. This brings us back to the standing end, which has a cord doubling it up. We're going to travel in between these two cords and do the opposite. So we start over 1, under 2, over 1. From right to left, we now have 2 more parallel cords. We travel between them and do the opposite. So under, over, under, over, under, and over. Place your working hand alongside the standing hand, going under 1. Work a bit of your working hand into the knot to loosen it up a bit. We are now going to double up our entire knot, following the standing end using our working hand. So here we are already doubling up our standing end going under 1. We continue over under, and over. Then again here, from right to left, keep following your standing end throughout the entire knot. When you reach the standing and the working end again, you have doubled up your knot. Place your working end under the rubber band like this to keep it out of the way. If you want to, you can bring some slack from the standing end into the knot to loosen it up a bit. This is completely optional. It makes adding the third pass a bit easier. So something like that. I think that the knot is loose enough. Take a second cord of a different color, half the length of your first one. So this cord is 2.5 feet long. Place one end next to the first standing end. Attach a lacing needle onto the other end. Travel in between the two passes in your knot, splitting them adding the third pass. So essentially, we are following the first standing end. So like this, alongside the first standing end, adding the third pass. When you come to the standing end of your second cord, place your working hand next to it. Then, we're going to work both of our working hands under or not all the way to the right. So, one of our working hands and the second one. This makes the two ends easier to trim off after we have tightened up our knot. Place your knot over the end of your handle and tighten it up. Start at the standing end, going through the knot, gathering up slack, then bring it into the working end. So through the entire knot, making sure that these three strands here are parallel. So we want a nice set of parallel strands. Like this. Then the second cord. We start at the standing end, bringing slack through the knot, and into the working end. Again making sure that our strands are neat and parallel. like this. So this is the first pass of tightening. We're going to do 2 to 3 total to get a nice and, well, tight knot. After tightening up the knot, trim the ends. Roll the knot. Push any visible ends into the knot. Then roll a bit more. So this is the knot at the bottom of the handle. We are now going to cover the head of the blackjack using a decorative knot. This is probably the hardest part of this tutorial, but in my opinion it's not really that complicated. So first, we have our rubber band. We take a gutted piece of paracord 16 feet long. Fold it in half. Place half of it under the rubber band. So 8 feet in the standing end, 8 feet in the working end. By doing our knot this way, things are a bit more manageable. Attach a lacing needle onto your working end, and we can begin tying. Wrap around, passing over your standing end. Keep wrapping around, and the next time you meet the standing end, pass under. Keep wrapping around. The next time you meet the standing end, go over. Finally, we now continue by doubling up the standing end. So follow it, doing what it does. So under, over, under. On the right, we are going to follow this cord and do the opposite. So under, over to, under to, over one. Now we are going to split the standing end and the parallel cord. Travel between them and do the opposite. So over, then under two, over two, under one. Then we split these two parallel cords, traveling between them and doing the opposite. So over one, under one, over one, under one, and so on. So a simple over-under sequence. On the left, we again reach the standing end. Double it up, again following it, doing what it does. On the right, follow this cord and do the opposite. So under, over, under, over two, under one, over one, under two, over one, under one, and over one, again reaching the standing end. Split the standing end and the cord, doubling it up, traveling between them, and doing the opposite. So over, under, over, under two, over, under, over two, under, over, under. On the right, we again have a parallel set of cords which we split, traveling between them and doing the opposite. So we begin over, under, over, under, over, under, so a simple over one, under one sequence. Place your working end alongside the standing end, finishing up your knot. Keep this much cord around so that you can tuck your working end under the knot, so about this much. The rest of your cord you can work into the knot to loosen it up a bit. Tuck your working end alongside the standing end under the rubber band to keep it out of the way. Continue loosening up your knot until you use up all of your slack. Once you have loosened up your knot a bit, move it into your final position, so up a bit, where you need the knot to be. So something like this. Now attach your lacing needle onto the standing end. So the working end is tucked under the rubber band, and we double up our knot using the standing end. So you simply follow the working end through the knot, doubling it up. Like this. We can now work some slack into the knot again, giving us an easier time when we are introducing our third pass. So again, I'm pulling in the slack, leaving a bit behind, loosening up the knot. After loosening up our knot, we take a gutted piece of paracord, half the length of our first cord. So this cord is 8 feet long. We place it alongside our first standing end. We attach a lacing needle onto the other end. And we use our new cord to split the two passes in our knot. So essentially, we are following the standing end, adding the third pass. Once you reach the standing end of your second cord, you have tripled up your knot. Take the two working ends, run them under the knot all the way to the right. Like this. Then tighten up your knot. Start at one of the standing ends. Go through the entire knot, removing slack. Then do the same with the second cord. So start at the standing end, gather up slack through the knot, making sure that you align your strands neatly. So after you've done one pass of tightening, you're going to do at least one more, if not two. After that, it's time to finish up our project. Sometimes when tightening, these cords here at the top get a bit too bunched up. In this particular case, I think this is fine. In this one here, these cords here may be a bit too bunched up. So here is a simple trick at how you can avoid this. It's not really that important, but it is a nice little touch. To avoid your cords clumping at the top, you can simply avoid adding the third pass at the very top of the knot. So here is how I do it. Again, we add our third pass in between the two passes in the knot. So basically following the standing end. Now instead of continuing here through the top, we are going to follow our cords up to here. Then simply jump from here to here. So following our cords, jumping ahead, avoiding the top of the knot. Then simply continue. Again, when you approach the top of your knot, follow your strands, here, and exit here, avoiding the top of the knot. So this way, you can avoid adding more cords to the top of the knot, so avoiding the third pass. Once tightened, trim the ends. Roll the knot. Finally, if you have any exposed ends, push them back into the knot. To round off the head of the blackjack, usually I tap it into shape. So guys, we've made a beautiful paracord blackjack. I hope that I demonstrated all of the techniques clearly enough so that you were able to follow through the entire tutorial. Do remember to use the item in accordance to the law and with respect to others. Consider supporting the site on Patreon if you like content like this. Thank you very much for joining me. See ya next time.